So welcome back to Wargamer Shut Up and Jam Gaiden. I'm Steve. This is Mike, and we've got a new face, Jind.
I am the Dark Lord.
Jind, the Dark Lord.
Way to date the video. Now, if people watch this after, Jind has done another video for us.
This is his YouTube debut.
Yeah, that's right.
He's becoming internet famous as we speak.
Well, it has to be uploaded.
Hi, Mom.
Hi, Jind, Mom.
Yeah. That's way more inappropriate.
Well, I'm not like, hey. But anyway,
Oh, yeah. Oh, man. Talk about my mom.
Well, we brought you on for a specific purpose because you are by far the person with the most expertise. We wanted to talk a little bit about
In the room,
fair, about the Hobbit strategy battle game, or HSBG, or SBG,
MESBG.
Whatever.
Middle Earth Strategy Battle Gaming.
Is that what we're calling it? Like, is it Middle Earth now? Is that
no?
the convention?
I just still call it the Hobbit.
Also known as Mesbig.
Mesbig. So you initiated me into the Hobbit, kind of like when you ran that campaign. Do you have an opinion? Would you like to say something?
I have a dirty thought.
Are we a family rated?
No, not at all.
Not at all.
No.
One of our first episodes, I brought up porn, so I mean...
Yeah. Our very first episode, he brings up hentai.
Yeah.
So, no. Why don't you tell us a little bit about... well, first off, like, Hobbit is a game that Games Workshop produces, and they dropped it, like, a couple of years ago. Just dropped support for it, said... Fuck it, right?
That's right.
All right. And then recently it's become kind of like they've decided that they're going to go back to specialist games, and that's going to be one of them. But why have people cared in between? Like, what about the game is why people still play?
Well, let's flip the question over to Mr. Memory here for a second. Mike, have you ever played The Hobbit?
No.
Have you watched the movies?
Yeah, I haven't watched the Hobbit movies. I've watched the Lord of the Rings movies, but not that.
Have you read the books?
No.
No?
He can't read. He just memorizes things as he sees them.
Yeah, sure, okay.
What was your general feeling about the original Lord of the Rings movies?
Pretty cool, I guess. I mean...
Right?
I thought they were good, but then going back to them, watching them a second time, they were boring as fuck.
Yeah.
Well, it's just that they're very long.
Yeah.
So, like, if you've seen them once, it's harder to, like, get into watching them.
Well, and if you're one of those people that, like, gets the extended edition, watches the 10-hour version of the movies, I can't do that. I'm just like, this is just too much for me.
Yeah.
But when the movies came out, there was a lot that I liked about them. Like, they really, to me, represented very well what the Lord of the Rings was as far as the novels are concerned. Missing some bits here and there, but they kept all the kind of important bits as far as I'm concerned.
So I think what I'm getting at is the foundation of the game is essentially the lore.
Mm-hmm.
It is the strongest IP game out there, probably seconded probably by Star Wars.
That's probably true. Yeah, that makes sense.
I'm not talking about the number of players or the player base. I'm just talking about in terms of the enduring legacy of the Lord of the Rings, how far it goes back.
Yeah.
How many reprints it's had, how many languages it's in worldwide.
It's true, yeah.
Right? It is like, I think almost any man and his dog will know the name Tolkien, or at least the Lord of the Rings, even if they haven't watched or
That's true.
read
And in the event that they haven't, they'll know what an orc is, what a dwarf is, what an elf is, and those concepts.
It's old, right? But they say he gave birth to essentially our world, right? The tabletop wargaming, because pretty much everything is derived from Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, well, and the way I understood it, like, although those concepts would have existed in, like, fairy tales mostly, he's the one who really kind of identified what these things were. And that dynamic between dwarves and elves being like, there's a problem there for whatever reason. Like, a lot of that came directly derivative of Tolkien's work. So
yeah, and if you think about like, say, GW with the chaos, right? Pretty sure they got that from the way the ring corrupted and influenced people.
Oh, probably.
The Numorians. So there's a lot of, like, derivatives that's all based off the game. So I think that's a part of the long-term factor of why it stuck around so long. Because let's say company like Privateer Press, or even if GW pulls the plug on 40K or say Fantasy, it wouldn't take long before those are long dead and buried and people won't even remember about them. There'll still be that little fringe of rabid players perhaps carrying it on, but years from now, no one's going to remember what it was or even what the fluff was. Like you mentioned earlier on, that the new version of Warhammer Mark III?
War Machine, yeah.
War Machine Mark III is dropping the fluff from the books.
Yeah, and they're putting it into novels. Yeah.
Could you imagine Lord of the Rings ever dropping the fluff from the books? Because it's the game is the fluff.
The novels are the
Right.
the fluff, right?
So I think that's a big element of why the game still persists to this day, is the fact that the people invested in it are not just invested in the game; they're invested wholly into the fluff. The majority, not everybody.
My argument for the Hobbit strategy battle game or whatever is more that this is my opinion, and I can say whatever the hell I want. It's my channel.
Yeah.
Unlike the rest of Games Workshop games, as far as my engagement with them, The Hobbit is the only one that has a rule set that feels tournament worthy. Like, it's a rule set where you can actually play the game, and although your army comp will matter to a certain extent, the balance, everything seems to be very well balanced, well tuned, and the way that the game operates lends itself to that, I feel.
Yeah, but I'm gonna be 39 this year, and I started GW when I was 10.
Okay.
And I only started The Hobbit at the age of 37.
Okay.
Right, so I'm 29 years almost into the GW franchise.
That's older than me, Jesus.
Right, and I've only been doing Hobbit for 2 out of the 29.
Okay,
so the game itself, actually, to be honest, the reason that it took off originally, there was a point where Hobbit was huge, but it wasn't Hobbit then, it was SBG, right? Strategy Battle Game, or Lord of the Rings, and this was when the first 3 movies came out.
Oh yeah, you had the
Every man and his
fever.
dog was in there, the hype was real. One of my cool mates, Simon, he used to run one of the stores for GW, and he was around at the time of the Lord of the Rings, and he goes, it was just boom, people would come in, and that was all they wanted. And every man and his dog wanted in the game, right? Mm-hmm. And it was huge. And the player base was massive, and the models were amazing. They had a huge release game. But then what happened, right? Because the movie stopped.
Yeah.
So obviously that's going to stop a big influx of people just coming in. The walk-in traffic is going to go. But what about the people that have the game and the rules, right? How come they died out? Because it's not just that the game was dropped by the company, but the player base themselves dwindled and walked away, and then there was a small core left. And I think it comes down to the fact, like Dan Miner, I don't think has he been on the channel?
Oh yes, yeah, he's been on. We had him on for an interview for his laser cut MDF stuff, and then we also had him in on our last week's discussions.
He's also a long time. He even updates me for GW stuff, and, and he used to work with them and stuff too.
Oh really?
I don't think he's never talked anything nice about the Hobbit or SPG, and as have a lot of my friends. And the reason is there was a derogatory phase where people would say the only thing you need to know about playing Lord of the Rings and how to win it is whoever rolls the most 6s wins.
I mean, and there's an argument to be made for that, but at the same time, I think that, when I play, I mean, based on, so I came on The Hobbit, which is the newest thing that's come out thus far, as I'm aware, and I started with Goblin Town, being whatever that is, and to me, that's true. Like you do get trumped by if they roll a 6, you're basically invalidated. Well, but I have 5, 6, 7 opportunities. He's got 2.
So, Mr. Memory, you've not played The Hobbit yet, right?
That's correct.
Imagine you come over to the man cave. We've got the army set up, and I'm like, all right. So, what do you want to be? Good, evil? And you're all excited. You got your army. Got a beautiful looking table, and we play. I move my miniatures. You move your miniatures. We do a little bit of shooting, and then eventually we start clashing in the battle line, right?
Okay.
And you win the fight against my. Are you more naturally good or evil?
Evil.
Like from the Lord of the Ring movies,
Evil.
is there any particular character or faction that was like kind of like your favorites in the movies?
In the movies, I don't
Evil.
know. I mean, maybe more towards evil. I don't know.
Yeah.
And
like
Ring wraiths are bitching, right?
You like the.
I was thinking more like the Balrog.
Okay.
Balrog's bitching
right,
too.
So he's got the Balrog, right? Bad example because he's so strong. But let's say, let's say the goblins that come with the Balrog.
Well, goblins are lame though.
They're lame.
Hey.
Yeah, well, no,
Anyway.
they are. Now you got your Balrog, right? He's ready to go. Now this example won't make sense because the Balrog in the game terms is really strong. But let's say your Balrog is fighting one of my models. You win the fight. You're like, excellent. You're like, Jind, how do I kill that model? You have to roll a 6, Mr. Memory. That's the only way you're going to kill him is by rolling a 6.
It's pretty ridiculous,
right? And it becomes a game of 6s, right? Because the thing is, the armor value, like the Gondor. Remember the Gondor guys from Minas Tirith, all armored from head to toe.
Yeah,
right?
it's very difficult to kill
when
them.
a crappy little orc comes up, stabs him with his sword, and his strength compared to the Gondorian's defense is such a difference that the only way you can kill him is to roll a 6.
That's true. Yeah.
Right? And so now, who cares about tactics? Who cares about positioning? Because ultimately, whoever can roll the most succession of 6s at a certain point is going to win the game.
I mean, that's true to an extent, but you also have...
I'm talking about Lord of the Rings, Dave.
Okay, fair enough.
Not The Hobbit.
Okay.
Not The Hobbit. I'm talking strictly Lord of the Rings, because the question was, why do you think the game endured? And I flipped it into why the game, I think, died.
So,
as
okay.
well.
So we're kind of in a strategy battle game renaissance now, then, I guess.
Exactly. So what happened was... the movies were long gone. The interest levels had long died. There was a small band of like worthy people still piloting and championing the cause worldwide, right? If you look at the GBHL, the Great British Hobbit League, massive following in England, but and there's a great following in Germany and a lot of these European countries, but they were underground. You don't see them at the GW stores. It would have been 40k fantasy, pretty much, right? And depending if it was North America, it would have been mostly 40k. If he was in Europe, it would have been mostly fantasy. But very rarely those GW guys would have come in and started playing The Hobbit.
Okay.
I actually remember back when I was like into GW games, when we'd go into like the actual Games Workshop store in like Metrotown.
Yep.
When the Hobbit game hadn't come out yet, but the Lord of the Rings game was out. I don't know about you guys. I personally used to make fun of people who were playing the Lord of the Rings game.
You've been historically a terrible person, though.
Well, yeah, sure, but like...
But it's weird, it's true. Like, for some reason, internally, GW gamers, and I'm one too, we would tend to... They would be the awkward stepchild or step cousins that no one really wanted at the party. and the Lord of the Rings players were typically pointed at and laughed at for some reason.
Yeah,
and I think it came down to like...
Because they were the
game of
casuals.
sixes. It's the game of sixes.
They were the new. Like in my case, it's like, oh yeah, we're hardcore. We're playing the Warhammer 40k. We're playing fantasy. These guys are just casuals playing with their Lord of the Rings. Yeah. They're just in here because they like the pretty movies.
Yeah, right. So there was some hangover from there. I think for the serious gamers, it was the fact that, well, what's the point in playing a game if you can only kill things on a 6? So there was a lot of that, right?
I do like killing things, and only having a 1 in 6 chance to kill things seems pretty lame.
Yeah. So then roll back a few years when they make the announcement that they're making a new set of films, The Hobbit.
Okay.
Right? And no one really knows what this means. And so GW once again picked up the license to do the games for The Hobbit.
And to confirm, like they don't have the license for Lord of the Rings from Tolkien. They have the New Line Cinema movie right, like version of the movie rights.
So anything to do only with the movies, and they can do some expanded made-up stuff around the movies, but they're not allowed to touch anything previous to the movies, like the Silmarillion or anything like that.
Okay.
I was under the impression that Tolkien was public domain, isn't he?
That's a good question, actually. He might be now, because it's been such a long time.
But I mean, like, so that would make sense as to they have the license for
memory.
like
Look at that.
they have the license for the like the movie.
I mean, if that's
imagery,
if that's very likely, and if he is public
I
domain,
want to just correct you there. If he said it,
it's got to be true
because he is the memory.
That's true,
and no one can dispute it. I dare you to challenge us in the comments below, guys. It's
I don't.
Not gonna happen.
I don't dare.
No,
you.
I have faith. I have faith.
People seem to have more faith in me than I do
have
myself.
faith. I have full faith. So The Hobbit's coming round, right? Yep. And GW received a lot of criticism post-Hobbit about not really supporting the launch of The Hobbit.
Okay.
Because when Lord of the Rings was out, there was a huge range of GW magazines that were specifically just SBG magazines.
Okay.
And there was just a lot of advertising. With The Hobbit, not so much. And so there was a lot of flack given to them. But I feel it was unfounded because initially, if you looked at the stuff that came out for The Hobbit, we got this new starter set, Escape from Goblin Town. Beautiful, beautiful set of miniatures. All the miniatures that they had around, they had plastic eagles, plastic dwarves, and plastic elves, and just plastic everything. Right? It was just phenomenal. And they had all these things released. They got this big, massive source book that they had going with the movie. And they were ready to go. And the big thing that started the Renaissance was an excellent fellow by the name of Adam Troke, who was also responsible for a lot of the Lord of the Ring era stuff. He actually helped pretty much write the revamped version of the rules for The Hobbit, right? So the rule book from The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings is practically, if you was to overlay them on an overhead projector, I'd say it's almost like an 80-90% match.
Okay.
And he only tweaked just a few little areas, but it was enough just to completely change the game. So to put it in other terms, it's the equivalent of just knocking out that one little dividing wall between the kitchen and the living room, and now you suddenly get this amazing open concept feel just by taking out this small little wall, and it just completely changes the flow of everything, right?
Okay.
And that's what the tweaks to the rules did, because you no longer had this game of sixes, right? So I'm not going to get into the mechanics, right? Because Mr. Memory will just not like that at all. But because you haven't played the game, so it's not going to.
Sure, yeah.
And nothing worse when nerds get together and a nerd starts like waxing lyrical about rules when the other nerd hasn't even played the game. It's just meaningless gibberish, right?
That's fair.
But let's just say they made enough changes in the game that it's no longer a game of sixes. Now your little goblin has a pretty decent chance of like knocking the socks off of a Gondorian soldier. No longer has to roll a 6. He might even get it on a free plus.
Well.
Oh yeah, he can.
I mean, there are ways. Yeah. I mean that's true. That's true.
You can get a free plus, right?
Yeah.
So it's way better than a 6.
It's true.
Right. So they made the tweaks to the rules, and it completely opened up the game. He's kept the core of the rules intact, which was great because the actual mechanics of the movement and everything else were fantastic. And I think where the Hobbit, or SBG, or whatever you want to call it, completely outshines the 40k and the fantasy is literally the tabletop. Because if we were to put all these great pieces of terrain on the board, and it's too bad we can't bring one of those over here, and I'd show you an example in the video. But like typically with 40k, terrain is kind of abstract. It's there to block line of sight.
Yeah.
And there's a point in the game where this forest becomes cumbersome because it's hard to fit your tanks and stuff around it. So that terrain quite often just gets moved and chucked to the side.
Mm-hmm.
And same with fantasy. You'd have a building. It looked pretty for deployment, but there'd come a point where it just gets in the way.
Yeah.
Whereas with this game, it's much more interactive. Like the terrain is actually truly interactive. Like you can climb up the steps. You can jump over walls.
Yeah, they've defined rules for how you engage with like almost any aspect of terrain.
That's right. So you can actually the terrain itself doesn't become just this abstract piece. It actually becomes it can become amazing, right? And it becomes a part of the game. So there's some amazing elements to the game. So the game itself is alive and kicking. And bearing in mind, guys, that we haven't had a rules update for a good number of years for the game.
That's true. Actually, one of the things that impressed me was that. I mean, you don't really need to buy supplement after supplement after supplement to play the game. Like it's the core rules are just fine, and
and you just need your army book and you're done.
Yeah, and for the stuff that is typically out of print, I think they've released a lot of it online for free. Although not
for the Hobbit, they did, not for Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, Lord of the Rings is a little harder to source.
Yeah,
which is unfortunate.
That's changed.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll talk about that later.
But the thing is, like, the thing that I thought was interesting about the game is that it's actually fun on a small scale. So if you play like a smaller game, like a 5 or like let's say a 300 let's say 300 point game, you can actually have a good time playing the game at 300 points. It doesn't have to be bigger than that, and going bigger doesn't necessarily equate to just more fun.
No, it's more work.
Exactly, it's more work.
Seriously, it's work. It's like man,
we played those 1,000-point games.
You got to have a good night's sleep the night before, and you got to drink your energy drinks before you come in on a big game.
And that's the thing. Like, we played those 1,000-point games, and they felt really kind of slow and cumbersome. And I'm like, I just enjoy the game more at 500.
Yeah.
And I think in terms of Games Workshop, that's a pretty impressive thing in that they're not just pushing you to buy more stuff. The people that buy more stuff.
No, they did. They did at one point when they came up with War of the Ring.
Okay, well,
and it didn't go.
That didn't go very well. Yeah. But the thing is, like, the people that will buy more stuff do so because they're like, oh, cool, I want to run with these heroes. I want to do, like, it's a matter of, like, you want to add stuff to your collection to try things out and play. It's not a matter of, I need these 700 models to play the game.
Well, there's we all get into our hobbies for different reasons. Like, why did you originally get into War Machine? What was it that drew you in?
Oh, I cornered him and bought him a starter set.
Okay. And then, obviously, since then, you've obviously gone for certain factions that you prefer, right?
Yeah, more or less.
Right, and just any game in general, guys. Like, what draws you to any particular game? You probably have different answers to each other.
That's true. There are different answers, and for different games as well.
And so the same goes with the SBG. So I don't want to paint it with like a broad brush and say this is why people get into it. But the reason why it's remained amazing, and the reason that the worldwide scene is at its most powerful ever, even probably stronger than the Lord of the Ring days, with a range where the models were slowly disappearing from the buying list, right? More and more models are out of print. You can't get any of the army books, bar one, from Games Workshop. They're all out of print. And they don't, the stores don't even carry the product, right? Because a lot of the stores were told you don't have to carry the product anymore, make more space for these other ranges. And yet it was growing, it's thriving. The GBHL was growing from strength to strength. And when I say GBHL, there's two elements of that. There's the league, and then there's a YouTube channel, and both are doing fantastically, right? And their tournaments were regularly drawing in 50 players without even blinking, and they were running tournaments literally weekly all across the country.
Like that's huge. A 50 person tournament in any game is a lot of people.
Just a lot of people, right? And but why? And here's the thing: if I was to say pre-Mark III, because obviously Mark III is not dropped yet, but in the current meta of War Machine, is there perhaps like just 2 or 3 factions that are kind of more powerful? Because I know when I used to play War Machine with my Legion list, right, when I used to run all beasts, Crix.
So I would say
Crix was pretty strong back in then. Then they're the undead type, right? The Crix.
Yeah. With War Machine, I would say that it's not so much on a like this faction's better than this faction. It's more like inside of each faction there is like your best list and your second best list, and that's not entirely true. Like
that's an exaggeration.
That's an exaggeration, but that's how it feels right now. And I think that a lot of people have started playing other games, at least in our area, have played other games because they want like a fresh meta.
If you looked at, say, some of the events and tournaments running across War Machine locally and even internationally, right? Were there any particular lists or factions that were doing a lot better than, say, other ones? Were there any couple like
the interesting thing is that trending wise, you'd actually see things in the results lists that are surprising. Like normally, you know, at least out here for a while, mostly because of Todd, people were thinking like Crix are super overpowered. They're greatest army ever. Well,
Captain Chuckles.
When they go to when you look at some of these tournament results, like it's not uncommon to see Ret in the top list. It's not uncommon to see other like Circle was hitting some of the top tournaments.
Yeah, I mean it depends on like the exact timing, and it depends on the meta. Like, and when I say the meta, I don't mean like the global meta. I mean like
locally.
Yeah, because like there was a time. Also, it should be noted that Privateer has made some like balancing errata over the past year and a half.
That's true, and that's changed things.
And some of that was in direct response to things that were kind of ridiculous. Like there was a particular Circle Ouroboros list that was really, really dominant for a while.
Now, before that list was dominant for a while, but then obviously they made some kind of change to the meta. Now, what would have happened if that change to the meta never happened and it just stuck a point in time with those rule sets and it never evolved past that rule set? I mean, would that list still be dominating?
There's a chance that people would have figured out something. Like even when that list was dominant, Circle wasn't winning every tournament.
Right, but
they were placing well.
But they were placing well.
Yeah, so you'd have people have models in their army specifically in case they encounter it.
Right.
So yeah, I mean the meta would change around the idea of that these are going to be a certain percentage of the field, so we need an answer to it. I mean, to be fair though,
telling of how good that particular faction was at that point, right?
To be fair though, I mean neither of us are really tournament players, so I've seen a lot of tournament results, but I can't really necessarily speak for how diverse it is. I mean, based on the people I've spoken with, a lot of people tend to look at it in terms of I always take these two casters. Right. And I think that there's a problem there, but how deep the problem goes, I couldn't say.
And this is the reason that there was a direction I'm going with, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is, we haven't had a rules update for years. I'm talking years. So we have the same set of rules and conditions imposed many, many, many years ago.
Mm-hmm.
We have this extremely hyperactive tournament scene globally, right? With Lord of the Rings. Not a single faction overrepresents or does well because the rule set is so tight, and each army is so competitive that even without having to change the meta and change this, it is such a well-written game that like there was no such thing as like the elves are dominant or the dwarves are dominant or Gondor. You know, there was no dominancy because it's such a finely tuned. Now I'm not saying every single unit is amazing because every book has its share of guff, right?
Yeah.
Stuff that's just absolute garbage that you're only going to take for fluff reasons. Sorry, the Balrog's one of them.
Oh, well. I just think it looks cool. I don't really care.
He looks amazing. I got one. I love him, right? He's just pants in the game. Like he's just awful because he's too expensive for what he brings to the table, and he'll never make his money back, right? But I'm saying book-wise, army book-wise. So I think this is another reason why the hobby has just dominated outside of GW because it's got such a great applicability. If you want to just hang out with your buddies and play a really cool narrative from the film, do it. You can recreate it.
So that actually makes me raise a question that I have. In your opinion, do you think that The Hobbit would be as big as it is now, given, like, let's say that GW dropped the license entirely, said, you know what, we're not going to do this anymore, it's not making us enough money, somebody else picks up the license. Do you think that it would still, assuming they had the same quality of models,
yeah,
do you think that the game would continue, like, or do you think that GW's involvement matters?
Yes, no, I think the game was unsupported for so long that the players were used to just being on their own.
Okay.
There's a ton of third-party miniatures that fit really well. Specifically, this company is making specifically to fill the gaps.
Oh, really?
For the Hobbit miniatures that were dropped or never made.
Oh, okay.
Like secret miniatures, I think, or unreleased miniatures. There's a whole bunch of them.
Yeah.
And like if you take Blood Bowl, guys.
That's another good example.
Blood Bowl, right? When's the last time Blood Bowl was ever supported? It was dropped so many years ago.
Yeah, they dropped a board game and then
huge following. They have a living rule book. Right? They don't need GW.
That's true.
They've surpassed them.
They could very easily go like the Pathfinder route and just do their own book, and that would be fine.
So there was the hobby was growing. People are playing it. The rule set's sick. The models are amazing. The lore is fantastic, right? So it's got a lot of attraction as to why people would want to play it. If you just want to hang out with your dad and just play games with your dad and just recreate the flight where the hobbits are running across the fields and trying to get onto the ferry, or they're fighting their way into Moria and Gandalf's on the bridge with the Balrog. You can do all of that, right?
Yeah.
If you want to get down and just really get downright nasty and dirty and you just want to completely obliterate people in a very highly uber competitive setting.
You play Bilbo.
Totally. Totally.
And then you smash him with a troll.
Bilbo is just a giant dong of dongness. He just dominates with his huge hobbit hairy feet. Is disgusting. He's not that good, guys. Steve didn't figure out what the One Ring can do, and
I learned quickly. So I mean, I think that's interesting. That, like
in War Machine terms, you guys got the how's the weapon skill represented in War Machine?
With weapon skill.
It is weapon skill.
Oh, okay. No, it's your melee attack value.
Melee attack value, right? So what this hobbit does is with his little ring on it, once he pops it on, if he's touching your model in base to base, your melee attack value is strictly just halved. It's just halved. And so he's got these trolls with melee attack value 7, which is amazing because troops are normally between 3 and 4. Heroes are typically 5 and 6. So these monsters are coming in with 7s and 8. And now they're 4s and 3s because of Bilbo. And it allowed all my little fellas to get in there and just rip the trolls a new one.
Yeah,
it was amazing. I loved it.
So now that we know that Games Workshop is bringing,
just so you guys don't give our fabled leader here too much slack. He is the producer when it comes to War Machine, but when it comes to Lord of the Rings, he's a Logan.
Well,
he's an absolute Logan.
That may be true. But let me ask you a question: who won that game? Thank you.
But here's the
Logan gets lucky every once in a while.
He thinks he won the game, but really what it is if only he had the wit to look up and he would have seen these strings attached to his hands, his elbow, his feet. And he would have seen a big effigy of me, the puppet master, because he was still in his formative days and weeks and I didn't want to lose him. I wanted to fully entrench him in the hobby. And I think if you was to do an interview with all the new recruits into the West Coast Hobbits, I think you'll find a lot of them start off with
maybe not Matthew after this last weekend. But
he never got to play me, the poor guy. He would have won.
I taught somebody how to play the Hobbit by crushing him.
Yeah.
See, apparently what Jind is saying is you're supposed to throw the game.
Apparently. Well, actually, it was funny because
Well, I didn't throw the game with you. It was still pretty tense for you.
I can't remember. I don't remember who it was, but they came up to me after that game.
I did try beating him. I just couldn't.
and they're like, "You're supposed to let him win." I'm like, "No, I'm not.
No,
I can't let him win. Crush him.
Crush him.
That's the only way he'll learn." But so with them announcing that they're going to be supporting the Hobbit, and we don't really know.
But why did they make this sudden change?
Well, so there's a lot going into that, but I'm just going to go with the summarized version of they pulled their heads out of their asses.
Basically, what it is they're like, hey, we haven't done anything for this hobby in years, right? But look, people still keep playing it, and the crowds are getting bigger and bigger and bigger.
Well, exactly.
Right, and then they made the surprise announcement that GW Throne of Skulls, very, very prestigious events in England, at Warhammer World, which is the mecca for the GW guys, right? And so the Throne of Skulls is like the venue, and they had kicked out the Hobbit, hadn't been around for a little bit, and suddenly they announced on Facebook, hey guys, Throne of Skulls. They made the announcement in the morning, and just before lunch, all the tickets sold out, 50.
Wow.
And so they immediately made another announcement, say, hey, we cleared up another 50 tickets, sold out by the end of the day. It was the fastest selling event in the history of Throne of Skulls, and it was the highest attended event since they relaunched Warhammer World.
Wow.
And so this backed up what Adam Troke, who is literally like, he's a demigod to us, and now he's almost reached God status because he's taken on the new management team for the strategy battle. He had a very strong position to be able to say to the company, guys, we can do it.
Mm-hmm.
And so they've actually given him a 4-year run. So he's actually got a plan of 4 years worth of model releases, book releases. He actually got it all planned out. He's obviously not sharing it because
of course.
why ruin Christmas? And so they're coming in with a second run. It's going to be headed up by Forge World, right? So it's going to be Forge World minis, so really, really high quality minis.
I wonder if that means that they'll only be available through Forge World, or if you can still order them off of the GW
this is
website.
where the nerd debate's raging on right now, because traditionally it would only be Forge World, but there's been rumors for years that Forge World web store was going to get merged with the GW web store. So even though you wouldn't have Forge World product direct at the stores, you'd be able to go into a store and order Forge World.
That would solve the Forge World problem of
so this has been a rumor
shipping.
for years, and my intuition says that they have been working towards this for a long time, and I think the biggest clue was when they released a board game called the Battle of Calth.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So basically, Mr. Memory, what it is Forge World would be a resin-only...
He knows what Forge World
You know
is.
Forge World?
Yeah.
Oh, excellent. So for the ones who don't, right? So you got your main privateer press that does all the main games. Imagine they got this little elitist company that produces really high-end, high-quality models but made out of resin, but you can only buy it from Mongolia.
Yeah,
right. That's
pretty
Forge
much.
World. And so now that Battle of Calth has come out, where are they selling it at?
Yeah,
The stores. And where are all the upgrade packs that they're now doing for the Battle of Calth from Forge World? So I think that it's a part of the long-term strategic move to align GW and Forge World, the web stores, together.
I think it would make a lot of sense.
Right, I think that's where they're going. And that's, if I was a betting man, which I would if I had money. So if someone was to lend me money on the channel, I can start a Patreon if you guys want to sponsor me for making some bets. I'd love to. I've actually made some really good calls over the years. No one believes me though. But yeah, I would say that's where they're going.
Fair enough. I think that like we don't know what the scope of the releases are quite yet. Like in terms of
they told us.
Oh really?
Yeah, they told
All right.
us. Well, when they did the Throne of Skulls, when they had the beer night on Saturday, when they did the quiz, so Adam Troke said he's going to do an exclusive seminar. And the nice thing about it wasn't just for anyone that had bought a ticket, but anyone that just came to the pub that night.
Oh really?
Because they have their own pub. It's amazing. They have their own pub, man. Bugman's Bar. I've been there. I've supped ale at Bugman's Bar.
Fantastic.
Oh, it was amazing. The beer was crap because I hate ale, but I wanted to drink it just for the experience, right? And
Well, I thought all proper,
I'm a lager guy. I like lager.
I thought all proper Englishmen liked
Lager.
a good ale.
We like lager, and I like my beer. I'm not much of an ale man myself.
I actually don't know the difference, so fair enough.
No, it's like Coke and Pepsi.
Okay.
Not even. It's like Coke and Coke Zero.
Oh, okay. Well, that's a huge difference.
This is a massive difference to me, right? Ale to me is Coke Zero.
So what were these what were the core of these announcements, and
So the first thing he did was to tell us why the game had been dropped by the company.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, and I was like, whoa, how honest is this? Amazing. GW got the license, and they were told that there was only going to be 2 movies made, and they were told what models, what characters were coming out, and they were given screenshots and costume shots of the characters and stuff.
Yeah, so they could prepare for
So they
launch
got
of the
ready.
game.
So they've actually got the product lined up, ready to go. Movie comes out, and they've announced that suddenly they're switching over to a free movie format. And they don't actually know what some of the characters are going to look like. So now they're caught with the trousers around their ankles. And there was a miniature, which they called Bolg. And he never actually came in the movies at all. He just came in on the extended scenes because they redid Bolg altogether. They just reimagined him as this like huge guy with all his little thingy-mabobs coming out of his shoulders, right? And so now they couldn't keep up with that. And then, did you guys watch I know you don't really like the Hobbit movies. Did you watch the Hobbit movies?
I watched the first one, and then when they decided they were going to make a trilogy, I'm like, fuck it, I don't care.
So they did the last one was called The Battle of Five Armies.
Yeah.
I went to watch it at the movie theaters, right? No, I lied. I didn't. I wanted to, but I had a baby, so I actually missed it at the movie theaters. I had to watch it at home.
Well, your priorities are totally fucked.
I had to watch it on DVD. And
Children.
And I couldn't wait for the extended one, so I just bought the craptastic one, right?
Okay.
Battle of Five Armies, shit. Absolute shit. Not even a good shit, right? There's the ones where you go and you've accomplished something, you've created something of beauty. And
You gotta take a picture of it.
You've contributed to beauty, you've advanced mankind.
Put it on
you
Facebook.
have elevated yourself to the 10th dimension kind of level of shit, right? And then there's the painful ones that just hurt.
Oh no.
In terms of Star Trek terms, you're venting plasma, you gotta dump, the warp in the cells, they gotta go. There's time to get rid of the reactor core, is going critical. That was the Battle of Five Armies level of shit.
Really?
We're not talking Zen Utopia. I hated it. And then guess what? They came up with the extended version.
Okay.
I'm like, this is amazing. Like, where the hell was all these like dwarves riding pigs? There was dwarves riding pigs! It was amazing. They had a dwarf chariot pulled by pigs with a great big bolt.
Those would have made wonderful models.
Like, it was like the A-Team made out of
Dwarves and pigs.
Dwarves and pigs pulling a sled with a dwarf with a big fuck-off machine gun bow. And they don't have any of that in the films. Now, how are you supposed to release miniatures for that?
Difficultly.
You can't. And so they pretty much gave up. The other thing was that the movies financially were not as successful as the first 3.
Yeah.
They were anticipating Lord of the Rings Reborn.
Oh, that's insane.
It wasn't. And so the company just decided that this is not happening. So they just had to wind everything down, and they pretty much mothballed the whole project, right?
Huh.
And so it was actually because of the independent scene that they were able to still hold on to, because there's a small core of guys that really love that game, like the Adam folks, right? And so they were always being ambassadors for the game, but they were eventually able to make a business case for it, given a second shot. And so what he said is that they're going to redo the rule book, but it's not going to be a new version. It's just going to be version what we have retweaked.
Okay, so it's just a kind of an update, not really like a huge colossal change.
Immediately, very, very soon, they are bringing back all the army books that are out of print.
Interesting.
And they're not changing them.
So they're not redoing any of them. They're just going to re-release them.
We asked them that. And when I say we guys, I wasn't there. I was sadly in Canada, feverishly checking my Facebook updates every second to see if anyone posted a video. No one did until like a few days later. Yeah. Right?
Yeah, get mad at the internet. That'll go well.
Even if you want to make a small change, every change has to be approved by the studio, and each change can take up to a month.
Wow.
And the number of changes that they wanted to make for the books would have meant perhaps a year to 2 years before they could get the approvals back. So they decided just to reprint them as is, bring them out because they want people to have access to the books.
Well, that's one of the big problems. Like when I was starting, because I started in The Hobbit, I'm like, it'd be awesome if I could go and grab these ring wraiths and grab these dudes and these orcs and everything would be great.
And no books.
And you're like, where do I get the books?
Well, no books.
I mean, you can find them online under certain sources, but at the same time, I'm the kind of guy that would prefer to have the physical book.
Yeah, for sure.
And it's like, well, too fucking bad. You can buy it on eBay for $1 gazillion, maybe, or you can't.
So the books are coming back, and he's also told us that there's going to be a ton of new books already in the pipeline, which are going to be like source books where they're going to come out and there'll be a whole bunch of new miniatures. There was very strong indication, well, not even strong. He showed us a freaking leak picture of, not a leak, but a work in progress picture of Dane.
Okay.
And apparently the level of Christmas was like amazing.
Okay.
Amazing.
And do we have any idea in the time frame for this kind of thing?
They already told us that there's going to be stuff planned for the summer, and definitely by October. And the reason October is significant is because it's also going to represent when Oddacon.
What the hell is that?
Oh, it's amazing. Remember that big level of Zen level
shit.
of shit?
Zen shit.
This transcends that.
Okay. Transcendent Zen shit.
Transcends the Zen. Leaves the shit so far behind. I don't even know what to call it. It's a celebration.
Okay.
Of all things SBG. So the GBHL YouTube channel, one of the hosts, James, is running an event in Manchester in this amazing hotel. We're going to do a Lord of the Rings convention around about the late in October, the 25th, something like that.
Okay.
And basically he's bringing together teams from all over the world. So we have Team Canada. I'm in Team Canada.
Internet celebrity.
Go Canada, go!
Internet celebrity, right?
Repping the Canada.
It was amazing. You need minimum 4 players to make the team. And 3 players were already in from Ontario. They needed a 4th, so I got in. It was amazing.
They have no idea what they've done.
Oh, I loved it. I'm in Team Canada, but we got Team America. We actually got a guy. We got a guy from New Zealand coming in, and he's joining Team America because he's actually going to the American tournament before he goes out to England. We got a fella joining us from South Africa. He's going to be an honorary member of our Team Canada.
Okay.
We got teams from Germany.
He likes poutine, so it's fine.
Tons of teams from England, of course, Ireland, a whole bunch of European places. 125 players, I believe.
Wow.
Tickets have sold out already.
So I just want to confirm one thing, actually. In a public forum online, just to settle this as an issue. But Canadians are actually just better gamers than Brits, right? I would say so. Probably.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, I mean, GBHL...
Because I left England and had to move to Canada, so I did bring a lot of the greatness with me.
We appreciate that.
Right.
But GBHL, you heard it here, we are actually just better than you. And we're going to beat you at this event later this year.
Well,
we're going to win first place.
Let's just say that the west coast of Canada is strong.
We're going to win.
The west coast of Canada is going to represent.
And they're going to lose.
Hopefully the east coast can keep pace with us, but west coast, we're pretty strong.
And we're going to bring the trophy home, right? That's what you're going to do. You're going to do that for Canada.
I'm going to do my best.
I take no part in this boast or conversation.
No, I believe in you. I believe you can bring the trophy home to Canada where all the better gamers are.
I think so, because I think really the fact is that the GBHL, I mean, what have they got going for them? They only run 1 or 2 tournaments a week for years, and I myself personally got an immense record of only going to tournaments that I've ran.
Yeah, exactly.
with attendees that are all noobs. Well, all Logans. I run Logan workshops. Right?
But let's be fair. I mean, they take time to have tea. They take time to go outside. We just game. That's all we do.
Yeah, but
we don't have the weather to go outside.
We game in an isolated vacuum. Right?
Again, you heard it here. We will win.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, for sure.
And Jind is representing Team Canada.
By the way, my new would-be patron backers, I'm not asking any money for that bet. You can totally talk to these fellas here.
Well, if you're betting their money, why not?
No, yeah, for sure. So yeah, no, the game's back. They've already talked about miniatures, books. They've got a whole lineup for stuff for 4 years. We're very excited. Biggest thing actually was a bunch of miniatures are no longer available on the Games Workshop site.
Oh, really?
So like Gondor, for example, there's a couple of named characters that you can no longer get. So one of the things that Adam Troke said was that there is going to be a very strong move into ensuring that at least 1 miniature of each type will be available again. And they're even talking about bringing out some of the old molds and just redoing them in metal, for example, for some of the miniatures that have gone away. And so that's pretty cool as well, because nothing worse than saying, hey, I want this guy to lead my army. Oh,
well, that's too bad to me.
Too bad, so sad.
Well, that's interesting. And when is this epic tournament that we're going to win?
October.
He did say that.
25th, 26th, 27th, I believe, or something like that. If you guys just go Oddacon into Siri, because I just realized shouting is not going to do shit. Right? If you go Oddacon into Siri, Check it out on Facebook. Go to the GBHL YouTube channel and check out some other places. But we've got the dates. There are some other tickets out right now. They just released a new bunch.
Oh, okay.
Bunch sold, so there's not that many left.
Okay.
If anybody wants to join us in Team Canada, we can even hook you guys up with the accommodation for anyone that wants to come.
Oh wow.
For that, not for the entire trip, just for the tournament weekend.
Fair enough. I'll link the GBHL, and if you can send me a link on the actual tournament stuff, I'll link it in the description of the video.
But we're going on tour. Are you joining us? Are you guys going to join us on May 1st?
No, I'm sending my fiance to school, and I'm staying at home painting models I already own.
So you would like to come with us?
Yes.
May 1st, Games Workshop Victoria has one Hobbit player, Simon, who is a member of our West Coast Hobbits family as well.
Oh right. So actually, why don't we plug the West Coast Hobbits while we're at it?
West Coast Hobbits, West Coast Hobbits.
There's a song. There's a song.
I think that's public domain. We're probably fine.
Yeah,
I'm not gonna get content IDs for that.
Maybe.
Yeah, no. We're just basically, it's just our little group name for the guys that will play the Hobbit.
So
the
actually,
West Coast. We're all West Coast Hobbits. Even Mr. Memories, he just doesn't know it yet.
There's a couple things I actually want to say about that group. First off, it's actually surprising how many players, even just here, are playing Hobbit. And secondly, in my experience,
that's all they play. They're very like loyal, right?
Well, and the other thing that I want to mention, in my experience, coming to the game as a Logan,
he's a Logan man.
Hi, Logan. You probably won't watch this.
Probably not.
But if you do, it'll be hilarious.
Logan. So in the Webster's dictionary, they scratched out the word noob, and it's just now just a picture of you.
But coming to the game as a Logan,
it works, right, on so many levels.
The people that I got to play with, and the people that like knew I was new to the game, even though we were in like that kind of like tournament sort of thing, really accommodating, really nice environment to play in.
This is not West Coast Hobbits. This is just SBG generally globally.
Fair enough, but I just wanted to like my exposure to the community has actually been very, very positive. So if that extends to all of SBG, that's awesome.
It does. We have a really laid back, awesome community worldwide, very welcoming. Mm-hmm. Like you said, like I've played competitively, like 40K fantasy. I've placed well at tournaments for those games. I played War Machine for a bit. I sucked because I don't know enough about the other factions.
But you're going to be joining us for Mark III, right?
Sure.
All right.
I've still got some Legion of Everblight sitting around on my shelf.
We'll have every army. You won't need anything. You need to show up.
I don't know what he's called, but he's a big beast and he looks like Beatbox and from Teenage.
That's the Titan Gladiator from Scorn.
Yeah.
He is over there somewhere.
Yeah, he looks awesome.
Yeah, he's fantastic.
Like a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle, like those two.
Somebody should paint up a Bebop and Rocksteady for
Bebop
Scorn.
and Rocksteady.
That'd be amazing.
That'd be amazing.
Do like a whole Ninja Turtle Scorn theme.
Yeah.
You could have, and I mean, you could. What would you run as Krang though? I don't know.
Oh, the brain guy?
Yeah, you gotta have Krang.
Oh, it'd be something from Crix.
No, you can't though. Anyway,
Anyway,
about the GBHL and West Coast Hobbits.
West Coast Hobbits.
If you're in the Greater Vancouver area, join West Coast Hobbits.
No, if you're in BC.
Oh, BC.
Join the West Coast Hobbits.
Join West Coast Hobbits.
We got one nation.
What I was going to say though was, I think most people in that group play out of Games Workshop Highgate Village.
No, we extend to Chilliwack now.
Nobody lives in Chilliwack.
Yeah, we do. The brothers.
It's true. There are people in Chilliwack. They have to raise the cows that shit there.
Yeah, they just joined the West Coast Hobbits. One joined us quite a few months ago, and then the other one just recruited last week. So we do have two players in Chilliwack.
They should come out here.
And we are going to Victoria.
Oh, right, yeah, to play with the guy there.
Simon is a member of our Facebook page, and he really wants to kickstart the Hobbit in Victoria. So we have a call for people going out to Victoria May 1st, and anyone that goes from the Lower Mainland for the event, free fish and chips.
Ooh, free fish and chips.
Free fish and chips.
Only to make up for the $80 ferry ticket, but...
Oh no, we're going to walk over.
Yeah, you don't.
We're going to drive, park, and then we'll walk over. It's way cheaper.
Yeah, it's like $10, $15 something like that.
And then your transit ticket, like another couple of bucks. So
it's not
like
so
20
bad.
something. And free fish and chips.
And free fish and chips.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
And Victoria.
Maybe. I mean, that might be something I can potentially... Although, no, June 29th, Mark III drops. We're going to be like...
You know that May takes place before June, right?
Wait, is it May 1st? May 1st. Oh.
That's actually in like a couple of weeks.
Okay, that is
week or two away.
Okay, well, we'll see.
Done deal.
Well, I said we'll
You
see.
heard it here first, folks. Subscribe to the Patreon channel and let's get this guy to Victoria. Make it happen. Make dreams come true. Comment below.
But I think that kind of wraps up our discussion about the Hobbit and SBG and
For now.
England as a place.
That's right.
Well,
I guess it can still exist.
Well, it can still exist. England is led. If they beat us in Hobbit SBG, they get to continue being their own country. Otherwise, we absorb them.
So what do you think, Mike?
You know, it's pretty hilarious that seeing as we're a British colony and all that.
Well, no, we'll just kick out Quebec and put in England. It'll be great.
It's not how it works.
It's how it's gonna work.
I think it would be a travesty if Quebec was to be kicked out, because then who would we pick on?
Newfies.
I like
They're really nice,
You
though.
feel
That's
nice.
true.
I've
Extremely nice.
I was talking to somebody.
Take that back. Retract it.
I was talking about.
It's like kicking a puppy. Why?
Look, okay, we also, like, they do have poutine and maple
How about
syrup.
Saskatchewaners?
It's kind of hard to kick them out because they're in the middle of the country.
But
And they also don't really have an identity.
Exactly.
They just
So
make flour.
really, the only people that you
I used to be from
you
Saskatchewan.
know, it's like
Used to be.
think about any writer who always laments like killing off a really, really good villain. Do you guys remember Sharp?
No.
Come on, like Sean Bean played that soldier from the
He
old
dies in
Napoleon,
everything.
from the Napoleon days. Sharp, you know, Napoleonic Wars.
No.
Ah, you guys are lame.
Anyway, so I think that wraps up the Hobbit discussion. We have a couple of other discussions to kind of go over, and I don't. Are you sticking around for Mark III and probably Dark Souls the board game? Or
Yes.
Okay.